Hi, good morning. You can start by telling us your name, where you work, and your position in that organization.
Okay, my name is Lucy Molenkei, the Executive Director of Indigenous Information Network, and also affiliated to other organizations for Indigenous peoples, like the African Indigenous Women Organization, Indigenous Women and Biodiversity. I'm also the co-chair of the International Indigenous Forum on Biodiversity, which is also something that we are really very keen on in Africa, to be able to participate in different issues of our biodiversity and the convention.
And what is your involvement with the BioDev 2030 project?
BioDev 2030 project, we have been involved as an organization, and we have introduced the same to the other Indigenous peoples, because I think that this is a very important process. And being one of the, as I mentioned, that I'm one of the co-chairs of the International Indigenous Forum, where we also have the regional focal point for Africa. We've been working a lot on the different aspects of the convention. And one of the milestones in 2022 was the Kunming-Montreal biodiversity global framework, which was very, very important. And it's a process which has 23 targets that leads us as a strategy to be able to see how we try to save our biodiversity by the time it's 2030. And so it's very related because of the targets that the BioDev is also focusing, target 10, target 14, and target 18. And as you know, these targets are quite broad also, because apart from just being the way they are, they also have other areas you can also be able to relate to. And the areas also that the BioDev is also focusing on is the mainstreaming of biodiversity, where you have fisheries, we have forest issues, and we have agriculture and others. And that's where exactly the Indigenous people are also focusing on. So it's kind of like enhancing the capacity on what we already know. And it's also an important way of trying to make sure that we mainstream and we look at all the areas of biodiversity, and all the areas of our economies, our development are related, and why it's very important to link and learn. So this is the reason why we got involved immediately throughout the process since 2022 and even up to date. And we are glad to be here also to be able to participate with both the governments and partners.
And what would you say is the one major contribution of BioDev 2030 specifically in Kenya?
In Kenya especially, I like the way that it's focusing on pastoralism, and most of the Indigenous people who have self-identified themselves as Indigenous people mainly are pastoralists, and they're also small-scale farming, especially when it comes to agriculture. To me, that is what I feel that is the best thing, because it looks at different people, different communities, and it reaches out, which is also one of the key things. It reaches out in the communities there, which it's not just a policy that is up there for all governments, but is also all societies and all people together. So it really makes me feel like this is part of it. And it's also easy to understand. And I like the way IUCN has done quite a lot of documentation, the policy papers. And if you look at it, it really, makes it a bit simple for you to even translate, because we work with communities who don't speak English, and some even them they can't read even in Kiswahili or English. So we translate it very easily into local languages, and so it's easy to transmit that than to go to the a bit of difficult policy documents, which sometimes just hang up in the shelves because you can't even translate them very easily. Mm.
You take that again, the answer. Do you mind repeating that? What you can remember?
What happened?
Our team was a little bit low.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
here it was Catherine. Yeah, just we can talk about the contribution that
Yeah,
BioDev has made
yeah.
in Kenya.
I think, but of course, you lady, BioDev has really contributed a lot in Kenya. I like the way it focuses on some of the areas, and even reading the policy papers, which are already there on pastoralism, agriculture, forestry, and it touches quite a number of areas. You know, when you talk about agriculture, you have horticulture, probably that's not very common for Indigenous peoples who are pastoral communities, but we have these small-scale farmers who are very, very crucial. They also practice pastoralism, and they practice small-scale agriculture. And they are also very keen, others, because they live in forest areas, like the hunter-gatherers and other minorities. Even we have pastoralists who also living in different parts of the forest areas. So when you look at everything, you see that it's simplified. It really makes you look at it, and we are all looking at those 3 targets, and they cover most of those areas. So sustainability and being able to look at it in a development perspective for Indigenous peoples and local communities is very crucial for me, and that's what I like it. And that's why for us as an organization, we've been really keenly following and making sure that we work. We are also members of the IPO for IUCN, and that also gives us more strength. And we want to even, we are inviting more and more Indigenous people in Africa to join so that they can benefit in what we are benefiting by getting this information, and also by participating and being able to be visible and to bring our perspective. And we think by the time it's 2030, we can have stories to tell. And even looking at what we've been doing here, we already have like pastoralists from Kajiado and from other areas talking about very issues that are really according to them. And what also interests me, like looking some of the policies like charcoal, charcoal burning, and trying to see whether we can come up with policies. These are things that touch that person down there. And it's very crucial. And when we were even discussing, we could see that we still have a lot to do. But the good thing is that if we can do all collectively, then it makes it even more better. And this is our country, and we need to do the best we can to also get back to being mega diverse countries, and something that we can show real on paper and also practically at the community level.
I feel like that answer was even